like we are live. So welcome everyone who's watching either through YouTube or Facebook. Happy that you are here with us today. If you ever want to be a guest on Everybody Has a Story or my Birth Stories series, please reach out and let me know. I would love to have you and hear your story. Today's guest, I have John Adkison, and he is a very strong advocate for genital autonomy, AKA against circumcision. So we are looking forward to what he has to say. This is a huge issue that I can't even believe is still going on in our world today. I can't believe people can't see it for what it is. So I'm very passionate about this for sure. So I'm going to try and contain myself, and we're going to listen to John, and I might have questions. But here we go. Welcome, welcome. How are you today, John?
I'm great, Lonnie. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about, how long have you been an advocate? For me, it's been 20 years since my eldest was born. It was never even a question, but that's when circumcision came into my thought. I didn't even know, like, partners I had previous to that. I didn't even know, it wasn't anything I thought about. I didn't even realize there was a difference or anything. It's just like madness. I can't believe what I know now. So where did your journey start? And just tell us everything.
Well, honestly, I've only been an out of the closet advocate for a few years.
Okay.
But my oldest son is 15. He'll be 16 here soon. Too soon. And I never really considered the issue before he was in the womb. And the question came up between my wife and her OB. She ended up changing providers, and we ended up getting information. But yeah, the OB provided zilch, nada information. My wife, he asked the question, basically yes or no question, and they kind of ask it in a way like, well, of course you're gonna get this done, right? Almost like, yeah, you're gonna, get the vitamin K shot and all this other stuff. So my wife responded, well, yeah, that's what you're supposed to do, aren't you? And he didn't respond. He didn't. So she changed to a different provider for totally unrelated reasons. And there she got offered information. And after she started finding out about the information, she broke down crying and everything. She's like, we can't do this, John. I'm like, okay, I trust you, but no, you gotta look at this and make the decision with me. I don't think she knew what she was getting herself into, and because she created a monster in sorts. But I read it, and I was like, well, so these are the reasons that they do it. I never really considered the religious reasons. To me, I'm a huge fan of religious freedom. So having my children be able to decide on their own, I hate indoctrination of such sorts. It's like, I'll give them the information, and I'll try to give them balanced amount of information so it doesn't look like it's biased or one-sided. I'll tell them all about all sorts of religions in the world, and let them decide on their own. Freedom of religion, though, is ultimate ruler of that. And I'm going to tell them, I don't want you to choose because of your parents or whatever. So I focus more on the medical benefits side, right? And I realized they're all preemptive reasons, and it's not like you're cutting the fingernails or clipping the hair or something like that. It's a body part that actually has purpose. I had no idea what the purposes were around this time, but it's like, this just isn't sufficient reason. It just doesn't add up to me. But it was really, really confusing to me because it's something that was happening, still is, so widely, at least in the United States. Yeah. I didn't even know what the rates were across the world. I kind of figured it was something that was probably done worldwide. But after I started looking, I was like, they stopped doing this, massively, like in Europe, and they don't have, they're not doing it for these reasons. These reasons are definitely not enough reason for them to do it. So why are we doing it here in the U.S.? So over about 12 years after I we made this decision, and after my son was born, I learned little by little by little by little, and I started putting the pieces together for myself about how it affected me that I'm cut. And the more that I learned, and the more angry I got, and you know about the 5 stages of grief, right? Yeah, so I went through those 5 stages over and over and over again. I learned a little piece about how I'm affected, and started thinking about how that affected me when I was younger, and just that one piece. And I'm an introverted, so I process things internally, and uh, then after going through that grief internally and coming back out, I'd go back to looking more about it and learn another piece, and I'm like, what the heck? You know, this too? And I've been stunned about how much there is to learn about this topic, and how much cognitive dissonance there is to break through. Even my own cognitive dissonance I had to deal with. Uh,
And for women too, right? So
Absolutely.
being an advocate for this long, right? And we go and try and help educate people, who are considering amputating the foreskin of their infants. So, as advocates, we like to go over and try and educate, right? And empower them so that they know that this is not okay, and this is why, and this is the functions of the foreskin, and just all that stuff. Then we get men coming on there. Well, there's all these women, what do women know? I want to hear from the men, right? Well,
Yeah.
I know, being part of this Int Activist community for a long time, there are so many of you men, and you guys are actually reaching out to me to come onto this show. So I reached out to you though, but but there are some men that are going to be coming on in the future as well, and they're going to be telling their story, and we're going to be hearing from the men. It's not just the women; it's just the women. We just know, and it's interesting how in school, when we have those sex ed classes, we're not taught the functions of the foreskin and even about a foreskin. We're all oblivious. So that's why I personally didn't even recognize if a sexual partner might have been intact or circumcised. Like I wouldn't have even, it just didn't even cross my mind. But now it does. Now it really, really matters to me.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
It struck me actually when my wife told me one time that she feels like she's missing out on something. And that was just another one of those times. Is like, okay, now I have to research more, or think about it more, or whatever, and process it. And people often say, "Well, I've never met a man that complained," or most men are thankful. And it's like, well, how many men even could tell you the names of the parts of the male prepuce? We call it foreskin, but really it's more than the foreskin. It's the prepuce. It's everything covering the glands. And no one ever answers that when they are thankful. And I didn't know those parts myself, and I didn't know how things worked and how things jived, and all that. So I had to study that myself to really come to it. And it's not something that I think most men will be able to figure out in a day or a month, whatever. They have to, like me, they'll have to take the information and process it, and they'll be lucky to get all the information all at one time. I started doing these interviews with people, and I'll put together these videos using something that it works and looks a lot like a penis, but it's made out of yarn. And I demonstrate and talk about all the different side effects and the complaints that men have. I kind of jumbled all this together over the years. So I figured, well, maybe it's not a good opportunity to try to explain it all at once. So maybe men can get it all at once. Challenge is sometimes you'll tell a guy one aspect of what they're missing, and they start getting angry, and they shut off to any new information. So you can't give it all to them all at one time. Yeah,
it makes sense. And like you said, going through the 5 steps, grieving and stuff, and being angry and things like that. I mean, that's something people don't want to have to face, right? They don't want to have to admit and see what was done to them, so unjust. And it is a big issue. People are rolling their eyes when they hear this kind of thing, like, oh, come on, I'm fine. Well, like what John's saying, right? Maybe just listen. And John, you brought up your YouTube channel and the interviews you have, and I watched some of them. You guys, like seriously, we're going to talk about that near the end here, where they can find that. But you're doing such a good job, John. Like those are great interviews because you guys are being so informative and educating, like you said, using you know, props or whatever, just to show. Is there could you just name three off the top of your head? Because I know that there are many functions of the prepuce. Can you just mention three for us today?
Sure. One of the first ones that really got to me was the fact that the glans is a mucosal body part, right? Much like the tongue is inside the mouth, right? And the prepuce has an intermucosal side to it, kind of like your lips or in your cheeks, right? That right there got me really torqued. It's like, so I could have been bringing lubrication, my own lubrication, to the game, and that would have made a lot of difference for me in sex. Still would today, but now that I understand it and I've taken the time to really analyze it and all that, I've made some adjustments to deal with it. One of the other things is that it's sensitive skin, and this has been proven by two studies, Sorrells and Bastio, and that it's definitely sensitive skin. In fact, it's really sensitive, very erogenous. It's got the Miser's corpuscles that they talk about in the American Circumcision documentary. So the light touch. I really just, it blows my mind that Brian Morris says it's not really that important. Touch. It's not that very important. It's like, I can't believe that anyone could listen to him say something like that and believe anything that he's written about the subject. It's like, okay, well, right away you just know that he's extremely biased on the topic. So, and then the frenulum area. People think of the frenulum a lot like the part that's underneath your tongue that goes up and down, kind of tethers your tongue to the bottom of your mouth. Same thing. It serves a function when you do have the prepuce, but that function isn't so important to me as much as the fact that when you look at the Sorrell study, that's a very extremely sensitive spot. And the guy from Canada, Foreskin Awareness Program, I think that's right, CanFap, who showed up on the American Circumcision documentary, and he talked about how just working with that area alone can get a man to orgasm. And I started, after studying how the male and female anatomy is created in utero and all that, and you realize that all the parts are there. It's just size and position a little bit, but all the parts is there. It's like, okay, so I've often heard that women get to orgasm just by fucking their clitoris, the clitoris, right? Right below the clitoris would be where their frenular area is. I would love to see a Sorrell study on just the right.
You have a lot of people that would volunteer for that study. You could probably find those people, John.
Yeah.
You could do that study yourself. Yeah, all the textbooks and things, and in school, if there's sex education, like they really need to be rewritten. They really do. We need to be empowered because we are sexual beings, and we deserve to be able to have that pleasure of touch and the pleasure that comes with sexual intimacy, having all of our body parts intact and to be used as they were perfectly made to be used. So yes, you mentioned American Circumcision. That's the name of the movie, right? Is it still on Netflix for people?
It's not on Netflix any longer, but you go out to circmovie.com or americancircumcision.com. Brendan was smart and did a couple of different domain names, and you can find it on iTunes, on Amazon. You might even be able to find it on your own cable provider's network.
Cool. So that's a movie, a documentary you'd recommend for sure. Any other documentaries or things out there that you might recommend?
There's Circumcision Movie. There's Whose Body, Whose Rights. There's others. You can go out to YouTube and look for the word and find quite a few things too, including my videos. So.
Yeah. And your videos, yes, I'm going to attach a link to your YouTube channel on the YouTube recording of this and in Facebook. So everybody must like, or if you know someone who's interested in learning more about the foreskin and things like that, please go watch these, excuse me, these interviews with John.
Yeah, I actually have a couple playlists. I'll send you the playlist. One playlist just focuses. There's just a bunch of short little videos, primarily by me, that just focuses on each harm, each physical harm, not the other harms. And then the interviews are for a docu-series I'm putting together that will not just point out the individual physical harms, but also get into the psychological harms, the way the partners are harmed, the relationships between people because of ritual genital cutting that's going on in the world. Talk a little bit about female and intersex genital cutting that goes on in the world, and how ultimately all this affects social productivity in the world.
Yeah, yeah. I just want to say a shout out to Erin. Erin's watching right now. Thanks for watching. I tagged her in this, so that's why she's watching. And I'll tag a few of our Int Activist friends as well, so that they can share this as wide as you can and want to, for sure. And I'll share the YouTube link with you, John. You can share it how you want as well. So another last thing that I'd love to hear your opinion on, because I see one of your interviews touched on it a little bit, is foreskin restoration. Okay, because people probably aren't aware. So once you do go through these stages, and you might be really angry once you learn what has been taken from you, you might want to consider foreskin restoration. So is that something that I know for you personally, it didn't sound like it might work, but have you heard from men that it has worked for and that it's been positive for? Maybe what you can tell us a little bit about what it is too.
Yeah. So foreskin restoration is really just what I've heard it call is a cellular mitosis, right? You're making cells replicate each other. So through stretching, much like what happens with a woman's belly area when she's pregnant, and maybe you'll see stretch marks and all that. Same sort of thing. You're pulling on the skin to make it stretch out, and then because it stretches out, you end up hopefully with some glands coverage. And once your glands are covered, the keratinization that's built up on the glands will slough off, and that'll bring the nerves of the glands closer to the top and make the glands more sensitive overall. And for me, one of the biggest advantages that I would have if I actually managed to do this would be the flexibility. A lot of people call it turtlenecks, right? Well, actually, a turtleneck is an excellent example of how the penis is supposed to work. The penis, shrinks and grows by a large amount, right? And you think about the turtle sticking his head out and back in, and he needs that skin to fold up around his head and then unstretch or unfold as it puts its head out. I mean, imagine cutting the skin off of a turtle's neck. It would be horrible for that turtle. It's also horrible for a lot of men, including myself. And a lot of men do restore. I've attended norm meetings in person here in LA area, and a lot of men rave about how much better things are. Even Brother K's been talking about it recently, about how he started restoring and how he's really happy that he did. Some of us, though, have such a small amount to work with that is just too frustrating. I met one other guy that sounds like he has a similar cut to me, and he's been trying for years, and he's really hasn't made much progress at all.
Oh, that's too bad. Well, shout out to Brother K, because you brought him up. We love Brother K. Brother K, we just really, really, really love you, and you're going to go down in the history books if you haven't already. we love you. Anything else that before we wrap this up that you'd like to share or just give to us here?
Oh gosh, we went through a whole lot real fast there, didn't it seems like there's so much we could be talking about with this. There's oh, so just a little more on the process of becoming an Int Activist, or I prefer the term Genital Autonomy advocate, because some people think of activists as, you know, these people that go out and block the freeways and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So, but you know, an advocate for someone's human rights, that's,
Yes.
can't argue with that one, right? And I happen to be wearing a T-shirt from yourwholebaby.org, and I think that's one of the greatest places to get started in this, if you want to help educate people, or even just learn more before you try to talk to other people about it, because it's there's a community group on Facebook, Your Whole Baby Community Learning or something like that. Not very hard to find, and they moderate it. They have volunteers that moderate the group very well, and they have a mantra, at least in that group, that says gentle education only. And you say anything that isn't gentle, it'll be deleted. And if you repeat uh, being not so gentle enough times, you'll get booted and blocked from the group. So, and that's kind of where I started and worked on from there. And now I'm just involved in many ways.
Yeah. And, you know, I just want to stress on what you just said there, how important it is to gently educate people, because I had mentioned this in my own video talking about this subject, that I know deep down in parents, they know something's not right about it, but they're doing it for whatever their reasons are. There's so many reasons that parents do it right now that are not, you know, medical. It's
Yeah,
just more like, oh
looks.
well, the dad is cut and he's fine, so you know we got to do it this way. No one's really questioning it, but I know that they are just fighting and going against that inner instinct, right? Because it's the exact opposite of protecting this newborn infant that you've been caring for and growing for 9 months, and you know you want to do everything in your power to protect them for life. So it
Yeah,
really takes a lot to go against that inner instinct. So if you're reaching out to someone who might be considering, you know, amputating the foreskin of their child, um, gentle education. There's beautiful websites. You had mentioned some. Maybe I'll attach some also to the YouTube thing description.
right.
You know, just sending links to people, or just gently saying, hey, you know, I have 4 intact children who are just healthy, and you know they were born perfect. You know, you might want to just reconsider or whatever. Be gentle. Come from a loving place, because people will just shut down if you come across really aggressive. And I've seen that
Yeah,
over the years, how some people can be in attack mode, and that just doesn't help, because you're just going to they're just going to retreat. Those people aren't going to listen. They're just
yeah,
going to feel more righteous in their decision, right?
yeah. One of the things that I'll point out, though, is if you go to this group, you'll often find that it's mostly women, women that are not directly, you know, they're not cut, they're not direct victims of this, and it's difficult
Yeah.
for men that have figured out how they're harmed to stay calm and cool without, you know, especially when they start running into people um, ignoring or you know, just shutting them out, or just responding in a negative way toward the victims that are expressing their own feelings about it.
Yeah.
So there's a page on the Your Old Baby website that has a whole list of stories from men that do complain.
Yeah. They do for sure. So so you said you kind of dabble in a few different things. You're kind of doing a few different things. You know, is there anything you can share here with us where people can
Sure.
find you and reach out to you for help? Anything?
Well, be sure to type my last name into Google correctly. First of all, it's Adkison, not Adkinson.
I
It's
mean,
Adkison,
yeah.
and there's not a whole lot of John Adkisons out there. I'm on Twitter. I'm on TikTok. Has been my claim to fame lately.
Is it?
I started doing clipping videos, existing videos that's on YouTube and other places, download them and clip them so they would fit into the 1 minute time zone that, you know, the restriction that TikTok has. And I realized that I can actually manage to make a good point with those videos within a minute if I just cut out all the extra stuff. And I started putting those up on TikTok by the hundreds. I spent
Hey.
probably 1,000+ hours putting them together, and I've had over 1.4 million views. So yeah, it's
That's awesome. Then well, you might have to you might be changing me then, because I have not subscribed to TikTok. But you might just take me there.
it's addictive. It really is. There's so much fun stuff out there. Great music, people, live acting, or live doing music and stuff like that. You just spend an hour or 2 or 3 just flicking through the fun videos, So,
I
and
don't
every
have
once in a while you might catch one of mine.
I don't have that kind of time, but I think that's
Yeah.
why I'm staying away from it, because it can, it's already all the time you spend on the other platforms. It's like,
Oh, I wasn't going to. It's like I have too many. I'm on too many platforms as is, and it's hard enough to keep track of. But then I realized how the algorithm worked. It's like, oh, this isn't like YouTube. It's like this is more randomized. It's like awesome. So there's more of a chance of my videos will get in front of people. So
well, good for you. I'm happy to hear that. Over 1 million. That's perfect. That's awesome. Bless you. I appreciate you so much for what you do and how you're just advocating for children everywhere. Thank you for keeping your boys intact. I'm sorry for what happened to you and the effects of it, through your life. But I'm sure you've come to terms with certain things, and you're just a beautiful man and sharing your wealth and wisdom. So thank you for being here. Once we get off, just make sure you send me your links that you'd like me to attach to things. Okay, John?
will do.
So, thank you again.
All right, Lonnie. Have a good day.
Okay. And to all you audience, if you want to hear more stories like this and beautiful guests, go to my Life and Birth Mentor YouTube channel to find them. And bless you all. Have a wonderful day. I love you.